All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Mode Studios with my main man, Ben Barber. And we are back with what we got, round series, whatever you want to call it, episode number 7 inside of our REO and Short Sale real estate agent success information series. You can tell that we haven't put a ton of thought into coming up with amazing, awesome titles and cool names so far with this. But anyway, right, this whole entire series has been dedicated to be able to inform and educate you guys on really all the most important things that you must know to go out there and create success with REOs, with short sales. So then that way your business is 100% recession proof. You have another consistent leg of your business. And then in the event of market shifts, when those happen, and this becomes really where a percentage of the business is, or where it makes sense to be in a position to have this knowledge and be able to shift that business, you're able to do that. So our goal again with these and all these 7 episodes has just been to walk you through step by step everything. And they're all like, think of this as like building Legos. Like if you have kids, and I'm just thinking this because my son's like massive into Legos right now. He's building Legos, and it's like, all right, you open it up, you got all these pieces, right? They're scattered all over. It looks like this big clusterfuck. But it's like, okay, you pull out the instructions, you pull out the directions, and you start with instruction number 1. Right? Like you don't focus on 2, you don't focus on 3, you don't focus on 4 until 1's done, 1's complete, then bam, now you go to 2, 2's complete, now you go to 3. And that's how this has been structured. So if you're jumping on this one, what I recommend, if you're listening to this one for the first time, I would go back right now and start watching number 1, then number 2, then number 3, because they all build off of each other. And if you don't have that information of the steps ahead of time and before time, that could hinder you and hurt you. Yeah. With success with this, right? Like we gotta understand the process. And again, these are going in deep, you guys, into, the benefits of getting into REO and short sales and what it can do for you and how it can change your life and change your real estate business, then to how to get into and become an REO listing agent, a short sale listing agent, and go out there and acquire those clients. Then to, okay, like you got, like what do you need to be prepared for, when you're taking on those clients, when you get new assignments, new listings, all the way through. So today we are here to talk about, so last week in our last episode, we talked about cash for keys. We talked about if that property is occupied, essentially getting that property vacant. And now we're picking up on that. So, and this is going to be specific to REO. This, what we're talking about in this episode doesn't apply to short sales, right? But specific to REO. So boom, now the property is now vacant. It's been, trashed out, and you're ready to start doing your initial BPO for the bank. And then part of that BPO, you guys, which we're going to talk about today, is doing your recommended repair strategy. So as the real estate professional and the trusted advisor to your asset manager, to the bank, and they're being the representative, right? Like they're looking for your professional opinion, professional insight of, hey, should we do repairs? Does it make sense to do repairs? If so, what repairs should we do? And then, we got to oversee that process. We're a little bit kind of like general contractors a little bit in this world, in this space. So, with that being said, I'm going to allow Ben Barber to kick this off and take this off, because this is really his expertise, his specialty, even though we both have massive amount of experiences in this world. Me as the agent, Ben is, one of the top asset managers and senior asset managers in the REO world, and lived in this game for over a decade. So I always like to start with him and get his perspective of like, what is an asset manager? Because in this world, your client is the asset manager, right? So Ben is going to say, okay, hey, if I'm your client, it's like having your dream seller client tell you exactly what they would want, what they expect, what they need, right? For you to exceed their expectations, where then they're begging to work with you, right? So let's, Ben, I'm just going to have you kick it off, man. And initial BPO, and I know that, the initial repair strategy is all tied to that. And I don't know anybody alive that is better at valuations and knows more about valuations and BPO and so forth than you. So, top tips, top advice, and so forth that agents need to know.
Dude, that's a good lead in, man. Thank you. Yeah. So for anybody that isn't familiar with my work, having been with, the VA, Fannie, Freddie, in addition to doing the policies and procedures, over my career there, I valued over probably 30,000 properties for them. We sold over 11,000 properties. But one of the big things that the asset management companies are always looking at is their net recovery. So what did you say the property is going to sell for, and what did we actually sell for? It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? So my whole time, during my whole career, my net recovery was right around 98%, 99%, right around there. You can actually get penalized if you price the property too low, right? If you say it's going to be a $200,000 property and it sells for 250, if you go 5% over, you can actually penalize. So valuation is an incredibly important part of this piece, because we need to get the price right so that we can sell it quickly, so we can attract the right buyers, so we can attract the right type of financing, so we can avoid code violations, avoid fines, because the longer that property sits on the market, the more of a liability it is, right? So the number one thing, and Josh, we've talked about this quite a bit, that I think a lot of people don't realize is that when you're sending off your valuation to an asset manager, or even if they have a special valuation department, a lot of people don't realize that the person that's reviewing your value may never have sold a property in their life. Okay, like when I got into REO, my dad was a builder when I was growing up. That was the extent of my real estate knowledge. And now I'm taking a look as an asset manager at a BPO for a property in Nashville, and I'm trying to determine what the value is. And all I have to go on is the information that that agent has given me. Okay, so that's the number one thing, is that you have to, I don't know if there's a politically correct way to say it, but you have to make your valuation kind of idiot proof, that anybody without any experience can pick it up. They can look at your comparables and you can say, yes, I understand how you got to that value. I think that's number one thing. Realize that somebody who is not familiar with your market, they're not familiar with your state, is looking at a property valuation that you've put together, and then they're going to, they're going to compare that to either a paid for BPO from a big company or from an agent. Like Josh, I may have you go do a secondary BPO to compare to my initial BPO. Total sideline tip, this is where you can really shine. If you ever get offered to do a secondary BPO, if your BPO looks better, 90% of the time, you're going to get that listing instead of the person that did that first BPO. So it's very important that you dial it in. So if I'm saying, what are we looking to do? The number one thing that I think is understand your audience. And like you said, each asset manager is different. So as you get familiar with them, you'll know what they're looking for. I was really partial to, I wanted to see properties on the same street. I didn't care if they were the same style. Right? I would take a 2-story, I would compare it to, a bungalow or a cottage if it was within a quarter mile. Like I'm okay with that. But the number one thing is understand who you're speaking to. So is it the valuation department? Is it the asset management and asset manager? And what are they looking for specifically? Right? That's number one. And then number two is you've got to pull, we're looking at, and I don't know how deep we want to go into it, because I know there's a bunch of theory, like the appraisers do, of plus or minus 5 years on the age that you're looking for, and plus or minus 15% for the size. But that gets a little deeper. And if we're keeping it high level, what we're looking at is you want to pull the most comparable comps that you can. They're apples to apples. Again, that anybody can pick up, they can interpret it. Unlike most places, you're going to do an active listing, right? So you're going to do an active listing as part of your BPO. And that active listing, again, should be comparable. Another side tip, one of the best things you can do, most agents won't do this, but once you have that listing and you do your monthly marketing report where you do an updated BPO every 30 days, track that listing, right? Maybe they price tag. That's the challenge with listings, is you could list it for $1 million, doesn't mean it's going to sell there. But it shows your competition, and then it allows us to track it for the next 30, 60, 90 days or whatever, and see if it's moved at that price point. So the number one thing, though, is know your audience that you're speaking to. And then we've got to get comparables that are as close to apples as we can on a repaired side, but then also as an as is. That might be a little challenging because you're walking into a property that may have had a lot of damage from an eviction or from a poor tenancy. You may have a property that is outdated, that maybe has some environmental concerns. So if you have to, look back a little farther or expand your search, that's fine. You're going to want to compare properties. They really should look like, in the REO space, we call them model matches, where I can look at something like Florida is my favorite place to do values, because once you get into a high-rise condo, they're all the same place. It's just different views and different floors. Like, I love that. And I can model match those things all day. Same with townhouses. So, you're really looking for like properties, recent sales, similar square footage, and then take a look at the financing, days on market, pretty much everything you would do for your listing clients right now, like your typical seller. The advantage that we have here is that we're going to somebody that is not making an emotional decision on this property. Like, I'm not looking at an REO and thinking I raised my kids here and I'm not going to sell it to somebody to flip. It's all just numbers, man. It's just, does this make sense? And here's what I put down as the number one things to look for is that, well, I guess this kind of more leads into repairs, because you are going to do your repair bids. But when you're looking at the property, you're constantly thinking, who am I marketing it to? What's my price point? What's my financing going to be? And how long is this property going to sit on the market? And then you really want to pay attention to any physical obsolescence. I hope I say that right. It always sounds horrible coming off, but is the property itself inside? Is there something wrong with the property? Like, you're not going to do major upgrades. Like, I don't know the extent of the repairs you've done on your stuff, Josh, but we're lipstick for the most part. I've only had a couple houses where we've actually installed walls or gone anything big like that. But you're looking at saying, like, is it a 4-bedroom, but the rooms are so small they're not going to qualify for FHA financing? Or is this basement window, is the easement wrong on it? So you're looking at things that are going to prevent you from being able to sell it. But then you're also looking at neighborhood characteristics, right? Like, am I close to train tracks? Am I close to industrial buildings? Am I close to a major freeway where I've got to account for the noise? If that's the case, you need to find properties that share those same disadvantages. Like, I'm not going to take a single family home that is right next to the freeway and compare it with one that's 2 blocks in a subdivision that never even knows the freeway is there, because those two aren't going to sell the same. They're not going to have the same buyer pool. They're not going to have any of the same characteristics outside of looking the same from a picture standpoint. So, with the BPOs, here's the advice I always give my asset managers is that you're not always going to be right, and you don't have to be right. Like, that's okay to be wrong, but you have to know how you got to your decision on value. You can't just say, yeah, I think it's worth $200,000. It just doesn't work. But if you can say, here's my comparables, here's why I use them, here's why I think they're strong, here's why I think they support value, then it doesn't matter if you're wrong, because somebody else is going to make that decision. And I know I mentioned earlier on the scorecard that we're constantly looking at that net recovery. Well, the nice thing about a lot of outsourcers is they have a net recovery for their internal department. So when I set a value, they're looking at what did I sell it for based on what I said the value was with, because I set the final value, right? But they have a separate matrix that is an agent recovery. So if I say, Josh, you bring me something and you say it's 200,000 and I say, nope, you're wrong, it's 250,000, and that thing doesn't sell until it gets down to 200. Well, your net recovery is still high. My net recovery sucks. So they're not going to penalize you if the asset manager doesn't, and that's not all of them. That's just, but they're going to look at what was your value against what it actually sold for, and then the challenge is on you to make sure that you're marketing it so that you do sell it at that and that you're aggressive with negotiations and things. But that's my top stuff for BPO. Do you have anything you want to throw in?
Yeah, I do. Just a few things to piggyback and add on that. All right. So, we've talked about this in past episodes, you guys, but it's really important. All right. So, most are going to give you got a timeline to do your BPO. Yeah. Right. So from the time that it's been deemed vacant, usually it's 72 hours, and as I said before in a previous series or previous episode in this series, like my commitment, like my goal, my objective was extreme high quality work. So no shortcuts, not trying to rush tasks, just get them done fast and then diminishing, the quality of my work. So, very high detailed quality of work, while at the same time getting every single task completed in 50% of the time that they've assigned to me. Yeah. Right. So I want to be quick with this stuff. I want to be on it, right. And because here's what I want you guys to understand when it comes to BPOs and any and all task completion. Think of this as, all right, you got this amazing past client database, amazing past sphere of influence that you're following up with, that you're nurturing, that you might be doing client events, you're sending gifts to, doing pop buys to, right? And why are you doing that? To capitalize on that repeat referral business, because that becomes gold, once you have those relationships, right? Well, how you do that with your asset managers is through your tasks, right? So completing high quality tasks and getting them done, right? Sooner than that deadline, right? Just have that mentality of okay, the due date is late, right? Like I got it, and just setting those parameters between you and your team and so forth, right? You're going to get rewarded at a high level. I can promise you that. and sometimes you get rewarded too much, right? Where it creates new problems that you got to go out there and grow and scale and experience, and so forth. So just understand that. All right. Then if you're watching this, you're like, what the hell is a BPO? It's a broker price opinion. I should have led with that. I apologize about that. So think of this as a CMA on steroids. It's more in depth than a CMA, but not quite as in depth as an appraisal. Right. And as Ben said, man, they're going to get your valuation as their agent and their trusted advisor. They're going to get, one or two other valuations. Sometimes they're getting an appraisal up front plus another BPO that they're paying an agent to do, which we've also talked about in other episodes of, that could be a little bit of a side money maker for you and give you a lot of great experience. So, again, you want to be on this stuff and you need to paint in pictures. Ben said your asset manager is sitting in a cubicle, probably more than likely 1,000 miles away, has never stepped foot in that neighborhood, doesn't live in that neighborhood, has zero real estate experience in most cases, other than, with their asset management, roles and their position there. So you got to paint a detailed, vivid picture of the rhyme to the reason that they can quickly understand. You got to put thought into this, right? So if you're using, whatever comps that you're utilizing, and do BPOs, like there's limited amount of room on the electronic BPOs, right? So this might be you having to, create your own documents in addition to those, given deep explanation, but bullet pointing it, right? Making it clean, making it clear, easy to read, easy to follow. So they get it, they understand it. You're painting the best picture possible, and then here's what I recommend. I know Ben started kind of talking about this, but then didn't go into it, which is a good thing, right? In regards to knowing, like what each thing, how each thing is valued, right? Because this is the part of real estate. I mean, when it comes to the actual business practices, it's universal and it's all the same, regardless of what the market is. I don't care what country you're in, where you're at, what size your areas that you live in, right? Like when it comes to the business strategies, it's all the same shit. The fundamentals are all the same shit. What it differs though is on a hyper local level, right, with the real estate itself, and then obviously local real estate laws and so forth, right? So like as an example, where I lived in Michigan before I moved out here to Phoenix, Arizona, you can have a tricked out pool at your house in Michigan that might have cost you 75, 100 grand to put in, but you're going to get very little. You might get 10 or 15 grand for that pool, right? Because they're not popular. They're a pain in the ass for a lot of people because they're like, you got to winterize them. You can only use them 2 or 3 months out of the year max, right? We're here in Arizona, like you recoup a good percentage of that money, right? Because it's all, you got two seasons here, warm and hot. You can use your pool all year round, right? People love pools. It's in demand. Everybody wants a pool. Your backyard is an extension of square footage of your inside of your house. So you got to know your hyper local market. So with that being said, I recommend that you guys get with a local appraiser. And even if you're an REO or not, I recommend that you guys do this every single year. Once a year, you might have to pay them. I mean, I pay a local badass top appraiser. I'll pay them, it's usually, I think, $500, have them come in and do like a 3-hour in-depth training for me and my agents on my team, and walking through, right, how they do their appraisals, right, like what they give. Okay, if it had a 2-car garage, but they converted that 2-car garage, all permitted into now additional square footage, right, but now they lost that 2-car garage and have this added square, like what does that look like? And how do they value this thing? What do they do here? And how do they adjust here? And as you're working with your appraiser, like you're, picking their brain and getting educated on this stuff, taking detailed notes. So then now you have charts, right? You have resources that you can reference, and then you can speak to how you came to those valuations. You do not want to guess on this stuff because it's been said, man, like you will get penalized. Because when we talk about getting penalized, right? Just think of that as trust points, right? Like the ways that you get penalized when it comes to the BPO is essentially them saying they can't trust your professional opinion to help them have success with selling their properties. Right. Like, so those are trust points, right? So you got to make sure that this stuff is on point, and you can't always get it right, right? We've all had properties, there's a traditional seller that's like, oh, I want X amount of dollars. And you're like, dude, there's no way in hell every comp on God's green earth supports this price, right? But they're adamant on it. You choose to take it, and all of a sudden they get their price and you're shocked. You're like, how the hell did that happen? And sometimes there's just a buyer that's willing to pay that wants it that bad, that doesn't care about market value. And sometimes that shit happens. Right. But you want to be consistent and have this stuff dialed in as much as you possibly can, with that. And again, I can't stress it enough. And I've been talking about this, paint that picture, you guys, good photos, tons of photos, tons of details, tons of information, you know, right? And make it quick. Like I do this with all my staff. I'm like, all right, you guys, you need to anticipate. So if you message me something, or if you need something, like you need to anticipate what I'm going to reply back to you with. So I have all the information I need to give you a quick response. And like, you got to anticipate that, you know, right? Like move that back and forth, have it clean, have it concise, provide all the information, you know, right? Where they're not having to come back to you of, well, why did you do this? You know, right? Like they get it and understand it, and they can make their best decision whether they want to listen to it or not, you know, right? So, you know, those are my top tips there. Then when we get into repair strategy, and I'll just lead with a couple things and I'll let Ben take over from there. You know, again, this comes back. I mean, it's no different. Just think of this as a traditional seller. If I walk into a house and this is where it helps to know with that appraiser and so forth. All right, I'll give a live example. I've got a rental property right across the street here from, I'm in my office right now out here in Arizona. And like, literally, like, I mean, I can walk there in 5 minutes from my office, maybe 10 minutes, but it's a subdivision right behind here. Yeah. Right. Rental property, tenant's going to be out end of this month. I'm going to go out there and sell it. You know, right? Well, I know that I can put $10,000 into that rental property because it's got some, you know, outdated Formica, outdated countertops, needs a little bit of landscaping, some paint. I can put 10 grand in that property right now. And there's very specific things that will get me $30,000 higher of a sales price. Yeah. Right. So I need to educate my asset manager in that same manner, right? Just like you would if you were working with an investor that's doing flips or so forth. You know, right? Of it's not about what is easier for you. It's not about, you know, what makes it look prettier for you. You know, right? As Ben mentioned, man, it's okay. Like getting clear on that area, knowing who, you know, the vast majority, the largest percentage, the largest possibility of whom that buyer is going to be, you know, right? So in the event it is an FHA, you know, right? Like, okay, like here, there are things where, you know, if the grade, you know, is slanted down towards the stem wall here in Arizona, I know that's going to be flagged by an FHA appraiser, and we're going to need to fill that in and, you know, get that done. I know that if there's flaking paint on the eaves, you know, alongside the roofs out here, that's going to get flagged by it. So not only am I looking at, okay, what are the recommended repairs, right? That like you put $1 in, you can get $1.50 or $2 out. Yeah. You know, right? You know, and sometimes it might be dollar for dollar. But if we don't do those repairs, you know, it's going to be very difficult to find a buyer or, you know, whatever. But then also in addition to that, shit that a buyer may not care about, but that lender on the FA that will flag the FHA, you know, whatever, you know, a safety and stuff concerns. So you got to know that stuff. You got to be educated on that stuff. You got to be savvy on that stuff. And whether you guys get an REO or not, this is just shit that you should know for your clients. Right. You know, right? Like you should know this stuff and spend time with this stuff. And one thing that drives me crazy about our industry as a whole is our, and this isn't meaning from realtors, you know, right? Like it's not really realtors' fault, you know, right? In most cases, because they don't know better, because all the you know, broker owners and, you know, team leaders and, you know, title companies, all the people that are usually we're getting our information from, what do they focus on? Getting leads, converting those leads, you know, right? It's I guess 99% of it, and 1% of it is, okay, how do I become a better real estate professional? Where I can then, you know, inform and educate my clients better to help them maximize their situation. You know, right? Like you need to know, okay, hey, if we upgrade from Formica to granite, here's what it's going to cost. You know, right? Here's what your investment's going to be, and here's what that ROI is going to look like for you. Right. You know, right? You know, just make sure that you understand that and know that stuff for traditional, you know, clients plus your asset managers. You know, but you're going to have like, so that's part of your BPO. Then from there, they're going to make a decision of whether they want to do those repairs, do some of them, not do them. Now, in the event that the asset man, I mean, I've had this happen many times over the years. I mean, I've sold thousands of REOs over the years and was very deep into that world for, you know, about 5 years straight, where that was 80-90% of our business, and you know, represented over 35 banks at that time, some bigger and some smaller, you know, right? But I mean, it happened. I don't want to say all the time, but it happened enough where it was a, you know, a consistent, you know, weekly thing where an asset manager will come back with what they call their marketing strategy. And I'm like, dude, you're making a mistake, mm-hmm. You know, right? And from there, you know, right, like I'm going to notify the asset manager. You know, right? I feel like that is my fiduciary duty and my moral and ethical obligation as their trusted real estate professional and trusted real estate advisor, you know, to at least voice my opinion and why I believe that they're making a mistake. You know, right now I'm going to support them with their decision, whatever they want to do, but I want to make sure they're alerted of that. right? And here's the thing is, as you build up those trust points with your asset manager, they appreciate that. They want that. They know that you're not going to steer them wrong, right? And they're going to go back and push and fight for you to get that stuff approved. It may be out of their control, but a lot of times it's not, and they can reverse that decision. So, you got to lead that process in that manner. So, any kind of last tips that you got when it comes to repairs, repair strategy?
Yeah, I think that everything you said is perfect, on point, 100%. So the only thing I would really add to it is just know your client guidelines, know what their goals are. Depending on the outsourcer you're going to work with, like I know Freddie has an internal goal every single month that a certain percentage of their portfolio is repaired, right? So, and then you have to dive in further and say, okay, well, what constitutes being repaired? Is it $500 worth of repairs? Is it $5,000 worth of repairs? Once you understand that, then you can help do your repairs to that. And if I'm with Freddie and I know they want to repair, now as I'm going through a property, I'm looking at how can I get those repairs, carpet, paint, the typical cosmetic stuff, but know what their goals are and then know what their value bands are so you can get started. So what I mean by that is you're going to have different levels where it may be if the repair amount is under $1,000, they only need one bid. If the repair amount is between $1,000 and $2,500, they need 2 bids. And then if it's over $2,500, they may need 3. And those value bands can change based on the outsourcer. But if you know that going in, and I'm walking into a property and I'm suggesting $10,000 worth of repairs, then I need to know my client and know how many bids I'm going to have to get, what approved vendors they work with, or what the approval process is if I'm bringing over my own vendors, and then how to prepare bids so that they're apples to apples when they go over. The worst thing for an asset manager is if you get 3 bids and it's all coming on separate emails that we now have to chain together to find out what the item is. Like, find somebody who can hit all the items, and then the bids should be in the same order. It's carpet this much, paint this much, so I can go line item and just bang them out. Because again, like Josh said, we're 1,000 miles away, but we're also managing 300 to 500 assets. That's a lot of things that we're trying to juggle. So we don't have time to sit and basically do an agent's work for them. That's where you want to scrub that stuff and make sure it's as easy to read as possible. And just to reiterate what you said, Josh, is like easy to read, but answer my questions up front, right? If I've got bids, when can you get started? When will it be finished? What are the deposit requirements? Are they willing to sign a lien waiver up front before they get payment? Understanding the process will help you facilitate the bids better, which in the end is going to help you manage them better, right? And then, like you said, then we're a contractor and you've got to manage that repair process. But for the bids, that's my biggest thing is I'm always looking at things like, does it increase the property value, or does it increase my buyer pool, or does it decrease my days on market? You don't always have to make money on it. If I'm gonna break even, or if I'm gonna lose $5,000, but I'm gonna save 30 to 60 days on market, I'm gonna make that decision. I'm gonna pull the trigger and do it, because really in our world, yeah, net recovery is high, but like we've talked about on a previous episode, it's costing the bank $30 a day per asset, and they're managing 10,000 assets. So it's a big deal to get these things off the books and to avoid going to auction and things like that. So it's funny because there's a lot of moving pieces to it, but this is, I think, focusing on these, that if you understand that this is really what you need to do to have your valuations approved and have the asset manager trust you and side with you, and then have your repair strategy approved as well. These are the top things that I would do. That's what I've got on that.
Yep. Love it, dude. Love it, man. And just to piggyback on, I know we only got a few minutes left here before we got to end this. Yeah, again, everything that you said is on point, you guys, or been and those watching and listening. I just want to add one last thing here before we wrap this bad boy up. When you guys are working with these contractors, managing the repairs, as Ben mentioned, you lead that process. Tell them, hey, here's how I need to deliver this to my client. So here's how I need these itemized. Here's how I need this broken down. Right, to manage the back and forth. You guys got to give clear, concise instructions. Right. So as an example, like I got my assistant going out there and looking for, I'm trying to do a huge mastermind event in Florida, kind of middle of this year. And so it's like, okay, well, here's my budget, budget's, 40, 50 grand, whatever that, like, here's my concise budget. Here's the size that the room needs to be. Here's all the exact specifications. Right. So I spent like 20 minutes, like just crafting out a very clear, concise, instructive email with all of that information. So now she can just go run with it. Get the information to me in the way that I instructed her to get it to me, right? Information that I need, whatever. But she also knows if it's a clear yes or a no, whether even to if that makes it on the list, to be able to send that to me or add it to the spreadsheet. Now I can review that spreadsheet, make a quick decision. You know, right? So, you know, having those clear, concise instructions, and remember, you guys, it's all, I mean, everything is sales, right? So obviously we're taking care of our asset manager and so forth. We talked a lot about this too in the short sale world of how you treat, you know, the short sale negotiator, and, you know, all of this stuff is sales. You know, right? So what I mean by this is, man, treat your vendors like gold, even if they're a freaking pain in the ass to you, you know, whatever. I mean, what's the saying? You get further with honey than vinegar, or whatever the hell it is. Yeah, right. Man, because like you want them to like you. Yeah, right. You want them to be able to go above and beyond for you. If they got, you know, because a lot of the big banks have their own internal vendors that they want you to go out there and utilize and so forth. You know, right. So in that event, if they got 10 other, you know, orders that they got to go do for, you know, the same bank, same client, for these other agents, like, you know, but I need my stuff to be, you know, top of the line, or that attention applied to it. Man, like I want to go out of my way to make them like me, know me, trust me, you know, want to, you know, work hard for me and so forth, man. So show that appreciation, give them love, you know, right? Like as I'm showing up to go out there and check on the repairs, you know, right? Like I'm, you know, I'm bringing in like food, snacks, waters, you know, bringing in, you know, if they do a great job at a property, you know, and I know there's, you know, 4 of their, you know, subcontractors working that property, whatever, like I might bring them all, you know, Amazon or Starbucks gift card for all their help. And dude, like all those little hacks, all those little things, I'm telling you guys right now, go so freaking far, you know, right? And will allow you to position yourself to have success with this. Because again, now you are playing GC. Now, of course, they have their own general contractor doing this, you know, right? But I mean, you're not just the agent selling real estate now for these REOs, but you're you know, it's kind of a hybrid of being you know, selling real estate as well as a property manager at the same time. You know, right? Like you got to make sure that they get started on time. You got to make sure that they're staying on track. You got to make sure that they get completed on time. You got to make sure that the work is of quality, you know, right? Because he's been mentioned, and we've talked about this so much throughout this whole entire series, it's a game of speed. You know, right? Like the asset manager is getting penalized and they're getting bitched at by their bosses, like every day, you know, longer than is what is deemed acceptable, regardless of the excuse, regardless of the reason, even if it's valid, they're getting their shit reamed. So then now I'm creating pain for my client, and I'm making my client look bad to their bosses, affecting my client's paycheck because now they'll hit their bonuses and so forth, you know, right? So you got to understand, you know, all the inner workings of this and the importance of how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, all these small things matter. So with that being said, I know we got only about a minute left, so we got to wrap this bad boy up. Now, real quick, you guys, you know, our goal with this series is to make sure that you guys know what you need to know, you know, right? That way you can go out there and start working on this stuff and make sure you know every main, you know, top piece of advice and all the main steps of each process, so we can go out there and crush it and so forth in this space. You know, but if you're looking for some more in-depth, paint by numbers, 100%, you know, 100% complete, you know, zero guesswork, advanced REO and short sale training, Ben and I co-created. We worked together on this project. So we have, you know, from the viewpoint of one of the top asset managers in the world, and then from the viewpoint of one of the top, you know, REO and short sale agents, you know, in the industry. So we have both perspectives in there, and we created REO University, which, again, we're walking you through all the main points that we talk about inside that university as well. But in this, we are breaking down step by step, you know, how to do all of these things. We're going to live properties and showing what the trash outs look like, what the repairs look like, walking you through live BPOs and how to do those valuations, and from A to Z inside that program, looking for, you know, to just eliminate all this work to get advanced training, prepare yourself to the highest level. Below is a link for, it's already, even though there also is all our short sale training in there too. But below is a link in this, to be able to go check that out. You can see what's all in there. There's a little bit of a video to show you how it works and, you know, kind of give a preview of that. Now, below that link, and this is really important, if you guys are going to jump into that, that program is $1,500, but we have a special promo code for anybody that's watching this series that you can put in there and save $500 and get it for $997. And we have a 3 payment plan too, with no finance charge, no upsells on that stuff. So, and again, the goal of this series isn't to sell you a bunch of shit, it's to educate in such a way. But I know there's going to be a lot of you that are looking for like, now that I know the main things I got to do, like, I don't want to invest the time having to figure out how to necessarily do all. And I want to learn it the right way from the right people with the right experience. And that gives you that channel and content information and resources to go out there and do that. So as always, truly appreciate you guys being here with us. Truly appreciate watching and listening. Ben, man, I truly appreciate you being here, taking time out of your busy day here, dude. I know that, you got your busy real estate team, and I know that you are just crushing with all your flip projects right now. I'm busy as shit. So it means a lot that you're taking time to be here with us, dude.
Yeah, it's always great to be here, and thank you for the time, man. It's ton of knowledge, ton of value, and that's why I love partnering with you on this, because even going through this stuff where I'm like, from our side, here's what I'm looking for, these bids. It's two different worlds. We live in a world where I just trust my agent and I say, here's what I need from you, and it's great having your perspective because you're the top performer that's saying, now here's how I do that for you. You know what I'm saying? So I love that we were able to come together, and I think it's given a lot of value to people. So please, take advantage of it. Like Josh said, whether you go REO University or not, this is information that's going to help you further your business. But if you want to go deep, that's why we built that, is to give you, no bullshit answers, that it's actually how to build it, and there's a ton of value there. So yeah, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you doing this, man. I know you have a busy day, so I'll stop, but yeah, always fun to be here.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, thanks again, Ben. Appreciate it, man. And all you watch and listen, we truly appreciate you. Truly appreciate your support. Keep crushing it. Keep kicking ass. And we will see you next time. Peace.
See you guys.
I hope you enjoyed this GSD Mode podcast episode. Now make sure you get shit done and smash that subscribe button now.